The completion of life. The natural way to save our lives is to live them, and a life, having once been lived, can never die. At its end, such a life is more accurately completed. 2. Actually, death as most of the world still fears it may not exist. Let me give what I think is a more accurate description of our end. I do not think I'm speaking as someone unacquainted with or insensitive to the tribulations or terrors of death. My sister was killed in a car accident when she was 16 and I was 11. An event that devastated the capacity of my family to experience the usual familial joys. Both of my parents have been for many years in the arms of eternity, and I myself have had a life-threatening ailment that only surgery and months of treatment could stave off. To continue, every life is conceived with the potential to produce a certain amount of energy during its span, and, given sufficient wholesome nurture and spared an accidental death, when a person reaches the conclusion of that span, he or she has produced all of the energy that his or her being had the potential to, and in terms of this life, there is actually not much left to die. We might more accurately say that the person's life is about to complete. Although it can't avoid seeming like one to our death-daunted sensibilities, I don't mean the word complete as a euphemism for natural death. I mean it as a more exact description of the event that concludes a life well lived. Further, we might think of someone who has completed such a life not as a dead person, but as a fulfilled one. So we may conclude, as others have, that the most consequential life and death we face is not the inevitable but usually long trip from womb to tomb, but within the journey itself, the life or death of our fulfillment, which is the positive, balanced expenditure of our life energy. Metaphorically, when we are born, a candle is lit, and its light is ours to expend until the wax that provided the energy is exhausted. To the extent that we fulfill the promise of our life energy, we live, and thereby save our natural lives. And to the extent we don't, we die. Yes, when all is said and done, we are, in Shakespeare's words, sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. Yet, to the degree that we have lived, we have saved our lives. We might go so far as to say that the only termination in all of creation that provides relatively small rewards to celebrate is an early one, unless the loss is due to sacrificing one's own life to save other life, in which case, while the loss is still cause for great sorrow, the sacrifice is, of course, heroic. May we not then wave away the mist that still surrounds what we refer to as death, and, seeing the actuality of our end more clearly, make our funerals, though inevitably and commendably sorrow-laden, thoughtful, heartfelt celebrations of, or at least observances of, the life and all other life. 3. As to life's end, let's imagine what creation's choices might have been. What if life had been gifted without a natural span and completion? Might we not bite into the nectarine too many times? Doesn't a limit on our years lend them value? Most tellingly, without lifespans, would we not have overrun the earth ages ago, so that long before now there would have ceased to be room for us, relative newcomers? Hard to come to terms with, but all of us alive today very likely owe our opportunity to live to much maligned death. Creation, faced with such quandaries, seems to have decided that wisdom lay in gifting life with a generous natural span and a momentary completion. 4. Since death, as usually conceived or insightfully described, still hardly invites our approval, we are not much inclined to count its inarguable blessings. Though death's big shovel will still come along and take all of us out of life, let's take a moment to enumerate a few. By making our years rarer, as mentioned before, it adds value to them, as diamonds are valued more than coal. It helps inspire us to achievement because we want to accomplish something while we are alive. Since we are, thankfully, sensitive beings, time wears away our bodies. In our later years, we can experience pain from which life's completion releases us. Change stresses us. We can endure a certain amount, but we finally reach a time when even sleep does not, again in Shakespeare's words, stitch up the raveled sleeve of care. Then, surcease does not seem as unfitting as it did in the untrammeled years of our previous decades. Due to external changes that occur as our years trip by, we are ever more likely to feel oddly distant from the society in which we find ourselves, because the content of our current lives is remote from our youthful frames of reference. Thanks to the wisdom and mercy of creation, we do not have to adjust to seemingly strange alterations forever. The concept of lifespans provides us with release. The existence of lifespans also removes the diabolical miscreant and thereby clears obstacles to our joy and progress. One of the few unmixed blessings of our inevitable individual completion is that every tyrant, too, must finally accede to the lightly tapping passage of the years and their cumulative power to crush even the most defiant. 5. At times we all regret that our lives will end, as well as the lives of the people we love, those who have helped us along, and those who have contributed to the progress of humanity. In fact, the sad mortality of all our lives. Yes, we know that all individuals and species, planets and galaxies, perhaps even as we know it, the great universe itself, must complete their natural lifespans. Yet, through understanding life's processes, we may retain our belief that creation's fundamental and all-redeeming gift is that lives can begin and experience fulfillment.